How do you feel about 6? Oklahoma won its 6th consecutive Big 12 championship on Sunday at AT&T Stadium. Much like the last 3 here, the Sooners had to survive some nervous moments, Parker.
That's right, John, and it's really indicative of everything that we've seen thus far this season from Oklahoma, the highs, the lows, but at the end of the day, despite all the turmoil that they endured here today, after nearly blowing a 17-point first-half lead, they earned their 6th consecutive Big 12 title. Just goes to show you, John, at the end of the day, Oklahoma still reigns supreme in this conference.
For SI Sooners, allsooners.com, I'm John Hoover along with Parker Thune. 27-21, it was a classic. Trey Brown with the game-winning interception, essentially, had 2 big kickoff returns. Sooners had a 17-0 lead, 24-7 in the second quarter, and much like their last game with Iowa State, 37-30 loss in Ames, it looked like the Sooners were going to blow a double-digit lead as the Cyclones just kept coming, Parker.
They did, and you saw Oklahoma stake themselves to that early lead, and you kind of figured the way that things were going, especially towards the latter half of that second quarter, Iowa State got on the board with the Charlie Kolar touchdown, and then the Sooners came right back and scored in 57 seconds going into the half. And so at that point, you took a look and said, okay, well, coming out of halftime, you figure Oklahoma's going to keep the foot on the gas and bury them and extend that lead coast to a pretty easy win. Not so, and as a matter of fact, they didn't score again until a late Gabe Burkich field goal, which really came in handy.
Yep. We can't underscore the silliness or the importance, or however you want to characterize it, of the all Big 12 team that was released this week. Lincoln Riley said after the Sooners had 3 players on the first team, that's the center, the fullback, and the kicker, and none on the defense, Lincoln Riley said, yeah, we were pissed. You saw after the game, players like Nick Bonito immediately take to social media with the hashtag honorable mention, LOL. I asked Alex Grinch about it, and he said, absolutely, Parker. You bet we were.
And with good reason, and I think you saw that front 4 come out extremely motivated today. Brock Purdy did not have a clean pocket all day long. Ronnie Perkins, Nick Bonito, Perion Winfrey, and Isaiah Thomas, really it wasn't one of those one guys. They were all getting to Purdy with equal frequency. They were keeping pressure on him from both sides and from up the middle. You saw Winfrey come through almost completely clean on a couple of plays. But all 4 of those guys, none of whom made the All-Big 12 first team, really came out as if they had something to prove, and I think they did prove it here today.
You saw, in addition to the pressure on Brock Purdy, Breece Hall held to a season-low 79 yards rushing, just 3.4 yards per carry. Lincoln Riley was proud of that. I thought Brock Purdy was pretty special in the face of that pass rush. 27 of 40, 322 yards and a touchdown, but 3 interceptions. They chased him all day, like you said, 3 sacks. One of his interceptions was the Trey Brown pick. Now let's talk about the other side of the football. Spencer Rattler, 22 of 34, 272 yards, rushed for a touchdown, threw for a touchdown. Ramondre Stevenson, I thought, was vastly underused. 97 yards on 18 carries. We talked about it on our podcast. We thought this was going to be a 30-carry game for Ramondre Stevenson. Maybe that almost cost Oklahoma down the stretch?
It almost did, and you go back to comparing those 2 quarterbacks, John. I think if you don't look at the interception column, you say Brock Purdy outperformed Spencer Rattler, but when you consider the fact that Spencer Rattler didn't commit a turnover, played safe, efficient football for 60 minutes, and Brock Purdy's 3 interceptions were all egregiously poor decisions, that's what bit Iowa State in the end, especially given the fact that Trey Norwood's interception came in the end zone towards the end of the first half when Iowa State was looking to build some momentum. And so I think the fact that Rattler threw the ball a little bit more than we anticipated, I was kind of surprised by that, especially in the latter stages of the game when you figured Oklahoma was trying to salt away a victory, but Rattler just kept slinging it. Yeah. Nonetheless, credit to Rattler because this was the biggest game of his young career, and while he wasn't spectacular, he did what he needed to do to put his football team in position to win their 6th consecutive conference title. And hey, at the end of the day, they rode the defense, and that's become the recipe for Oklahoma towards the latter half of this season. Who would have thought, John, that we'd be standing here in December after the games that we watched against Kansas State and Iowa State earlier in the season, and we'd be saying that Oklahoma's defense is what carried them to a Big 12 championship.
On one more on Rattler, Lincoln Riley said in the postgame he thought it was his best game of the year. That's saying something. The other Oklahoma quarterback, we didn't talk about him yet, Chandler Morris comes in, finishes a true freshman, comes in and finishes off the Sooners' first drive, their opening drive, with a 2-yard scamper after Spencer Rattler limps to the sideline. Oh, my poor aching foot. You know, little trickery there by Lincoln Riley. What'd you think of that play?
Well, it was completely by design, and we asked Spencer Rattler about it in postgame. He said, yeah, we drew that up. I was going to limp off the field like I pulled a hammy. Chandler was going to run on. Spencer seemed a little bit miffed that he didn't get the call on that particular play. He said, I thought I was plenty fast enough to make it, but I guess Coach Riley thought Chandler was a little bit quicker. But it was Morris's only snap of the day. Just made it a foot race to the pylon. They stacked the formation right. Morris ran left. He beat everybody to the edge, and the Sooners are on the board first. And from there, they never surrendered that lead.
27-21, Iowa State falls to 8-3. OU improves to 8-2. Now, we find out tomorrow morning, 11 a.m., ESPN, the College Football Playoff announcement show. It's also the bowl announcement show. December 30th, Cotton Bowl. Sooners are going to be right back here. You think that's about right?
I think that's what we all expect at this point, John, that we'll be right back here in 11 days. There's a lot to be determined tonight. Obviously, you got the Notre Dame-Clemson game happening right now, a couple other dominoes that need to fall one way or the other before we know for sure. But the safe money is on the Sooners playing right back here in this building next week.
For Parker Thune, I'm John Hoover, SI Sooners, allsooners.com.